Hi, this is Michelle Waite from Growth MVP here in Gainesville. Very exciting day today. We're at the BarCampGNV. I'm sitting here with Stacy Burrell, who is on the board of StartGNV, who is hosting this event today. And he's going to tell us a little bit about both of those organizations.
All righty. So StartGNV is a local nonprofit. We basically are looking to grow the innovation and creative ecosystem here in the greater Gainesville area. We've been around in some form or another, actually since the 80s, but I guess this kind of current, if you want to say version or incarnation, is about 7 or 8 years old. And so part of what we do is we hold events like BarCamp, our Celebrate GNV, various meetups just to bring the community together again to foster creativity, networking, and innovation in the area.
Nice. And so this particular event is called BarCamp, and it's something that was kind of brought to life, I think, in Silicon Valley.
Correct.
Yeah, which is where I come from.
Okay. So yes, it's what they call an unconference. So rather than it being top down, where you go to a conference and there are specific topics and an agenda, and in this case, this is the opposite. It is totally what we call community organized and done organically. So for the Gainesville one, this is, I believe, the 8th BarCamp.
Wow.
And it's just bringing the community together to network. It was sort of initially kind of geared to the tech creative space, but as you can see, it runs the gamut of whatever people's interests are, whatever they're passionate about. They're free to come here, hang out, and talk and enlighten others about the things that they are really into, and to also learn from other people and learn from each other. Last year was my first one. There was an interesting talk this guy gave on mushrooms. And not so much the psychedelic stuff, but just like mushrooms in general, and about how they are, just a different species themselves, the benefits, all of this stuff that I had no idea.
Yeah,
It was
so
just
you learned something about mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's not more than something that just goes on your pizza, something like that.
So people sign up, I guess. There's a big board, all the different slots. People just come in 9 o'clock this morning and they start signing up.
Exactly. So we line it up we try to organize with at least a few featured speakers. So we had 4 that will speak throughout the morning, throughout the day. But the remaining slots, yes, it's first come, first serve, whatever topic that you want to talk to. The only thing is, it's not a sales pitch. So that's kind of the only real rule is not to shill or try to sell something. But other than that, whatever you're passionate about, it's like, hey, just go for it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And one of our speakers, one of the planned speakers, Lauren Poe, who is the former mayor of Gainesville, is going to be speaking. And you're going to come back for a little bit to talk about
SVB and
you have a finance background.
Correct. That's what I do. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Right. Well, I look forward to it.
See you here.
We'll be right back. this. Okay. So we're back with one of that we just mentioned, one of the speakers that is a planned speaker today. This is actually an unconference, so we're doing an unpodcast today, which is I just met Lauren this morning. We've not prepped with any questions or anything like that, so we're just going to have a conversation and
Sounds
see
great.
where it takes us. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I just mentioned that you were the former mayor of Gainesville, I think up until January.
Yeah, January 5th.
Okay.
Noon. Not that anybody's counting. Yeah, but I've lived in Gainesville since 1982. Went to middle school, high school, University of Florida for a couple degrees. Was taught out at Santa Fe College until about 2 years ago. I taught for 24 years.
And Santa Fe College, by the way, is where we are today.
One of our hosts.
Where yes, they're hosting this event.
Yeah, incredible local asset. In fact, just yesterday, I took a group of Serbian prosecutors and judges to the Institute of Public Safety that Santa Fe runs, one of the elite institutions and public safety training organizations in the state. So yeah, thank you, Santa Fe. You're an incredible part of our community. And then served about 15 years in public office as a city commissioner, and the last about 7 as mayor. So it's
what inspired you to get into public office?
I think it's just the type of family I grew up in. We, every night at dinner, we talked about what was going on in the world and how we could help. Both my parents were educators as well. And there was just sort of this sense of responsibility to try to make the world a little bit better than the way you found it. And so I just reached a point as I got more and more involved in our community where that was a way that I felt like I could make a contribution and, really try to make Gainesville a better place. And I'm sure there's people that would tell you I was successful and others that say I wasn't, but that's the way that politics is. Yeah,
exactly. What were some of your priorities during your term in office?
Yeah, so really when I decided to run for mayor, it was all centered on equity and trying to really address some of our racial and economic disparities that we inherited in the city, and their long legacy disparities. But lots of things overlap with that. So there's housing equity, there's transportation equity, there's, I was really excited to work with our entrepreneurial community, try to help create an environment that fostered more diverse types of businesses and more success for ideas to sort of grow in Gainesville. And then I think most importantly, stay. We don't want everyone leaving and going to the Valley or to Austin or other perfectly fine places, but we want them to stay here and grow their businesses here. So, but yeah, sort of everything, whether it was, environmental policy or transportation policy or housing policy, it was all kind of centered on how do we make Gainesville work better for everybody.
How does that, so are you involved with StartGNV at all? Or
on the periphery?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a co-founder and president CEO of a new startup called Greater Gainesville International Center. And what we've noticed with StartGNV is there's a lot of overlap in our mission. And so we're really looking for those opportunities where we can work collaboratively to try to sort of elevate and celebrate a very similar sort of part of our community.
Okay. And do you see overlap with what's going on today as well in that whole equity space and obviously entrepreneurial space?
Oh, 100%. In fact, I had my first disappointment of the morning when I saw one of the non-featured speakers, one of the folks that just showed up and signed up, talking about the need for more housing in our community. And it's right when I'm doing my talk. It's like,
and you wanted to be able to, because they have 4 going on at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm thrilled that a topic that I care so deeply about is something that somebody else here feels strongly about and wants to share with other people. And I think that's just the beauty of BarCamp is you don't know until you get here what cool things are going to happen.
Do they record the sessions? Do you know?
I don't know, but I sure hope so.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about Gainesville, about the international center that you're working on? Like, what are your priorities there? I'm assuming they're similar to what you just talked about.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gainesville is, if not unique, we're one of a very few number of cities like this in the country where we have this incredible research institution that draws people from all around the world and is, the sort of foundry of innovation, not like any other public university out there. And then we have a great support institution like Santa Fe that really develops incredible people that can be part of that workforce that all of our companies need. And what we where I think that we can improve is how we welcome our international community and make them feel more welcome and more integrated with the everyday life of our community, whether it's in our economy, our sort of the way our government functions. I want Gainesville to be a place that people hear about all over the world as that's the place I want to go, because I know that I'm going to be welcomed and I'm going to have all of the support and resources I need to be successful.
So is there a big international community here because of the colleges, or is it outside of that as well?
I think that is the primary draw, but we also have a very large number of, say, more migrant agricultural workers, people that work in construction and hospitality. And so there's really a spectrum. We have folks at the very top of the sort of income ladder, engineers and doctors and entrepreneurs.
Right.
And then we have folks that really live on the margins and, are not seen and are not heard, and really struggle even doing something as simple that we all take for granted, like registering your child to go to school. And so for the International Center, we're trying to be very mindful of that entire spectrum of our neighbors, and using all of their sort of experiences and talents collaboratively to try to make, kind of rise the tide for everybody.
Right. That's awesome. I just joined a board in this, I'm from the St. Pete, Tampa area, called Project Prosper. And they do financial literacy for immigrants and refugees that come to the area. And that is a huge, and also microloans in addition to that. But yeah, there's a huge need for, some people on the one end of the spectrum not having that knowledge, and just having somebody walk them through it is
incredibly
amazing.
Intimidating and overwhelming. Even something as simple as visiting the doctor and not being able to speak a common language. And so I now that I know about them, I'll reach out and connect with that organization.
Yeah,
because,
I'll connect with you on it.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of thing that we're hoping to do more of and do better here.
Yeah. So anything else you want to talk about, or anything that's on your mind? You just talked about a group of Serbian lawyers that came here and they got training at Santa Fe, or what was that about?
It was a week long. So we were the host organization, but it's run through a program administered by the U.S. Congress called Open World. And it is the only international exchange program operated out of the legislative branch and not the executive branch of the federal government. Most of those programs are all like State Department kind of operations. But it's a phenomenal opportunity. They bring delegations for about 10 days. They spend 2 days in D.C. with like a very intense crash course in American government and that sort of thing. And then they travel to a host city on a variety of topics. And so this one was the American law and justice system. And so there was a judge, 2 prosecutors, and 2, what we'd call clerks, that learned about how jurisprudence works in the United States. There was also a representative that works in the U.S. Embassy in Belgrade that works for DOJ, but who is Serbian. So we spent time with federal judges. We spent time watching first appearances in circuit court and county court. We spent time in traffic court. But it was really a sort of global look at our justice system, and it was very bilateral. And so while they had lots of questions, the judges we spoke with, the lawyers we spoke with, the folks out of the Institute of Public Safety, all had a lot of questions for them, like how do things work? One of the things that came up was guns. They follow American culture closely, and they know that guns are a big part of our culture, and they found that so odd and foreign because it's next to impossible. In Serbia, we learned that you can purchase a gun, you can only have it in your house, you can never take it out of your house, and you have to go through annual licensing updates and psychological evaluation. So they were very fascinated by how the sort of access to firearms impacts our justice system, impacts how we police and provide public safety, and the same thing, the law enforcement cadets, the judges had a lot of questions for them on how that affects the same things over there. And so this is the first of 5 delegations we'll host this year.
Wow.
On different topics. Some I'm really excited, and I'm going to work with StartGNV. One group, I forget where they're coming from, but the topic is sort of protecting intellectual property and how do you sort of grow your entrepreneurial ideas in an environment that protects them, and they can't be gobbled up by somebody else that has more resources. And so it's a great opportunity for people to come see Gainesville and see what we do here, but also for us to build connections in other parts of the world.
Conversations. And your talk today, don't tell us too much because you're still going to get it out there, but it's around this sort of theme as well, is it not?
It is. I mean, it really goes from a very simple principle, which is that all great cities were usually founded at a crossroads where people came together, trade routes, or because they had certain, resource advantages or things like that. And it's sort of, we're just kind of blowing that out a little bit to make it also metaphorical that Gainesville is a crossroads for our international community. And they bring with them ideas and experiences that if really allowed to flourish can make our community so much stronger. So it's you're trying to pull a very old idea into sort of where we are right here in 2023.
I love it. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to miss it because I think it's during a time that I'm going to be talking. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you think you'll stay in political world in any way?
I am 99% sure I'm done, and my wife is 100% sure I'm done. So I think with those odds, no, I'm excited about a new chapter and a new venture. I kind of sometimes wake up wondering what I'm doing, but I've always worked for large institutions, like a college and a city, thousands of employees and large bureaucracies. And now, I'm sort of a small one-person operation building something from scratch. It's the complete opposite. And I'm really excited and leaning into this adventure.
That's
and
awesome.
It's a fun new chapter in my life.
That's great. You can do what you want to do in a different way. That's
absolutely
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, and we're going to be right back with Stacy again in 1 minute, so stay tuned. Okay, just make sure. We've had technical difficulties in the past, so I just want to make sure everything is running and that we're on. It looks like we're good.
All right.
Stacy's back with us.
Yes.
Again, we are at the StartGNV bar camp in Gainesville. And as the talks are going on right now in 4 different rooms behind us, we just spoke with the former mayor of Gainesville. He's going to be doing a talk on the international crossroads, or Gainesville is the international crossroads, or at the crossroads. And we were just going to chat today a little bit about some of the things that are happening in the startup world, which is in what I love to talk about.
Okay.
We've had a lot of, and you have a finance background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Okay. So, Stacy Burrell, I'm Vice President of Finance for a FinTech company called Concero Global out of Austin, Texas. And what we basically do is provide what we call a finance as a service for small growing companies, a lot of them in the SaaS space, investment management and funds. And we also have a practice that also does this for nonprofits as well. And basically we just provide, in addition to finance and accounting support, we also have a ready-made, what we call tech stack, so that companies can just plug right in and
interesting.
and get going.
Okay.
Yeah. So so probably an interesting part of the job that I experienced a couple of weeks ago was with the whole Silicon Valley Bank collapse.
And I'm sure everybody is aware of that, but Silicon Valley Bank, which has been around, I think, 30 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
They support the startup industry, and there was a run on the bank, and the government had to get involved in all of that. And most people that are in this space have followed that.
Correct. So, of course, with what we do, we had a lot of clients that banked with or banked with Silicon Valley Bank. And so, as you said, they've been around for quite a while, a couple of decades, but it's a regional, I would say, sort of niche bank that they support the startup community, more out the kind of the whole Silicon Valley, but outside of that as well. They have a lot of connections with venture capitalists, PE firms that will guide their clients or companies that they invest in to do their banking there. And the unique thing about it too was that they really tailored their services to the needs of the tech community. So all of those were like really good things.
Right.
Where they got into trouble was that they didn't diversify. And part of that is because everything was so tech focused. This bank was really unique in that most banks you think of, you have just regular people, even small businesses that bank, and most have they have up to or below the $250,000 threshold.
Right.
Whereas with SVB, over 90% of the clients had in excess of that. And I want to say, don't quote me, but I want to say that was like the second highest in the industry.
Yep.
And so people think, okay, so as you said, it was a run on the bank.
Right.
And and that can happen to any bank because at the end of the day, the way the business model is set up is you take deposits, you pay X amount, you loan at a higher, you do loans at a higher amount. What they'll also do is, in addition to doing loans, they'll also invest the deposits as well. It's usually supposed to be in things that are get a good return, but low risk. Yes. Yeah. So that's actually what they did. They bought a lot of U.S. Treasuries, which on the surface you think, okay, well, what's wrong with that? That's very safe, and it is. However, with inflation and interest rates being that keep getting increased to try to curb inflation, what that does is it, on paper, decreases the value of those treasuries that the banks, particularly this bank, was buying.
Okay.
And where if you keep it for a long term, there's no danger. You're going to get your money, the interest, and so forth. However, if you only have a small amount on, let's say, a cash available, and people all of a sudden, hey, I want my money.
Right.
That means you have to start selling these securities or these treasuries, and now you're selling them at a loss.
Okay.
And so the combination of, to me, this inflation, companies needing more cash, you're dealing with a financially savvy clientele that keeps an eye not only on the company's cash, but they're also watching the bank as well. And it was literally somebody
making
hey, I think this bank is in trouble.
Yeah.
Started pulling their money out, and then it just cascaded from there. And how we were affected, we're trying to with our service, trying to get our clients' money out. I was with.
Oh, so you were helping them to get their
try to transfer the money out to other bank accounts. It's literally. Go ahead.
So do you think that the sort of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, not fury, but the energy around this was more so now because of like what happened with FTX. I know that's a completely different story, and there's fraud there and that sort of thing. But do you think people got scared even more so because of that?
I think that probably didn't help. You also, that's not the only bank that's also been kind of on people's, if you want to say, warning or kind of, because there's other banks that, and I won't contribute to it behind, but there are some banks that deal with, I think like Signature, and there's another one that they deal with crypto funds. And similar thing, but in a different thing of having their assets in crypto, it's or digital currency, that taking a nosedive. And again, people were coming in wanting their money out, and so that's why that bank also
that was one out of New York.
Correct. And then there's another one that's also shutting down the end of next week as well. That's very that's also crypto based. Silvergate Silvergate Bank.
Okay. I think I've heard the name, but I didn't realize they were shutting down this.
Yes.
Wow. What do you think the long-term implications of this are going to be?
Well, with the government stepping in and guaranteeing the deposits for those two banks, it did at least stop the panic, I guess you could say. What I'm seeing is more clients are. A lot of clients did have their money in multiple banks, but you're seeing more so maybe a shift back to some of the larger banks, like your Bank of America, or your JP Morgan, and so forth. But again, they're even vulnerable to that. But the key thing is that the larger banks they have to be stress tested to make sure they can handle if there is some sort of run like that. Whereas with SVB, they basically they got exempted a couple of years, like back in 2018, not having to have that stringent test done. And it freed them up. And from doing that, it freed them up to go after more deposits and make more investments. But the downside was what happened was that they were over leveraged and ended up,
So they got that ability to do that because they were a smaller bank. Was that the idea?
A regional bank, yes. And so they lobbied Congress that this was, just too much regulation and red tape. And but that stuff is there for a reason. So I mean, at the end of the day, this has a cascading effect because people think, okay, I have my money there. How am I going to get it out? That sort of thing. But this also ripples through the economy. So even, let's say, companies that didn't have funds there, you have customers that bank there. Now, are you going to get? Are they going to have the ability to pay you? Are they going to be? If companies, there was a fear about can you make payroll, and if that's the case, and if not, layoffs there. So it like I said, it has a cascading effect. Even for people that are not even customers, can also be impacted as well.
I knew a lot of discussion, watching online. There was a lot of Twitter going on during that time. There was a lot of good feeling for SVB. It wasn't like, it didn't seem like, and I'm not an expert in this, but that there was any fraud or anything like that.
No, not at all.
And that they served a purpose in the industry, in the startup world, especially the tech world. Talk about that a little bit. Any thoughts on?
You can hear different things. It's like you could again, I was talking earlier about the diversification, and where I'm coming from, or my viewpoint is more so of what diversifying how you're managing companies' deposits. But there's also, I've heard chatter that they should have also diversified in terms of their customer base as well. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, or say because it was a regional bank, it was I won't say a niche, but they were serving a very specific population or group. And to me, there was nothing wrong with that because they were able to tailor financial products to meet the needs of tech startups that you would not be able to get from traditional big bank. So
Right.
that is, so they did serve.
They served to fuel some of the startup scene.
Correct.
And
They were in terms of innovation around products and such. I've had experiences where working at we're working on an e-commerce company prior to joining Concero, where we were looking to not so much grow our banking, but do more with our banking relationships. And we were dealing with a bigger traditional bank. So we had the safety feature, but they just could not kind of meet our needs because we were too small for them to, I don't want to say care about, but we just weren't on their radar in terms of trying to come up with products and solutions that would meet our needs. So there is a market and a need for banks like SVB, and hopefully they can come back in some other form, or another bank can step in and fill that void. But hopefully, I think
everybody's going to UBS. Like everybody wants UBS to be taking over Swiss Credit,
right?
Credit Suisse.
Yes, exactly. But and I believe the with SVB, I think they're European. I think I was a London bank. At least bought the assets over there.
Okay.
But yes, there is a need for banks that can serve not just more the tech, but the startup community, because the needs and things are much different than even a kind of traditional company, and definitely than that of let's say a big corporation.
Well, it's interesting because what you spoke about, I'm assuming a lot of your clients are startups in this world.
Right.
A lot of my clients are startups in the world. So you're more kind of fractional financial services,
right?
For lack of a better word. Some people like that word, some people don't. And I do that from a marketing perspective. So they're not quite ready to hire a high-level CFO or CMO or whatever it is. And so that is filling that need. And from a banking perspective, that's sort of what SVB was doing as well. But there's more risk to it, I guess. So.
Well, yes, but I think it's just they got, again, if they were under the kind of normal banking regulations, this might have got caught early. And the regulators may have had them maybe diversify a little bit more, or at least have more cash on hand to to stem this. Again, especially since so many of their clients had huge bank balances. And
so not just startups. I mean, they were pretty past the startup phase.
Right, but they're still
getting
small,
a lot of
but
VC money.
Correct.
Yeah, this is a fascinating space. And I guess the lesson that you're sort of outlining here is the having the rules and regulations in place that prevent something like that from happening.
That would be ideal, correct.
Okay.
But from a, I would say, customer standpoint, what you should do is also, where possible, bank at multiple banks, and not put everything in one. Now, a lot of people, these companies did do that, but I think this even more so illuminated that need that yes, you should kind of spread it out a little bit. What you're now seeing too, and this will be interesting, is now with this, there've always been things called sweep accounts, but what you're seeing is companies going into these not agreements, but setting up these accounts where every night, especially if they're well over 250,000, so every night their money is basically taken out, goes into another bank, another account, and it's spread out.
Oh yeah, somebody was just talking about this the other day. That's like a company that offers that service.
There's one company do that, but there's banks that will do that as well. Because if you have like, $4 million, $5, $10 million, that's a lot to open up multiple accounts
Yeah.
to limit it at 250,000.
Yeah, it's a lot
It's
of.
possible, but you're going to pay a lot in fees.
Yeah.
You're trying to manage that in terms of trying to even close in the books. Having to reconcile that many accounts, it's just not it's not feasible.
Yeah.
So this service here kind of does that. It just does it
Interesting.
automatically.
Yeah.
Puts it out next day, puts the money back with whatever interest it earned overnight.
Really interesting.
So yeah, so that's one thing that customers can do. Spread out how many banks that you're at least, I would say at least 2 or 3, and look at things like sweep accounts, and even things like whether you like put some of the money in like CDs or high yield money markets. Again, just diversify.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Well, this is a great conversation.
Yes.
Thank you for stopping by, and
Okay.
thanks for introducing us today as well and what we're doing here at BarCamp.
My
And
pleasure.
we're going to be coming right back with our next person, who is Mike Herchel.
Yes.
And he is also on the board of StartGNV. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
God, I gotta look at myself.
Okay, we're back. We have Mike Herchel here, and I was incorrect in stating that he was on the board of StartGNV, but he is very much involved.
Correct,
with
correct, yes.
StartGNV. What is your involvement with them, and how
So-
did you find them?
I've been involved with the local community back when StartGNV was still called I think GNV, Gainesville Tech or something like that. So within Gainesville, I run the the Gainesville front end web development meetup.
Okay.
So
So you're a developer.
Yeah. I am a developer, and we started back in 2014. And prior to the pandemic, we met monthly every month, and we hadn't missed a meetup. And I'm really proud of that. We had a lot of really cool speakers come. I made a lot of great friends, built a great community, and then we had some sporadic, meetups through the pandemic. Trying to be safe, but afterwards, just most recently, about 6 months ago, we started back up regularly.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
How many people are in your group? Is it?
It's on meetup.com, we're about 500 people.
Wow.
I know, right? But
Wow. And they're all Gainesville based?
I would say the majority of them all, but our average meetup size is maybe like 20, 25 or something like that.
Okay. And normally meeting in Gainesville?
Yep. We meet at this building right now. We're at the Santa Fe Blount Hall. And we meet here every third Thursday. We head over after we usually have like 2 presentations, and it's fairly informal. And then afterwards, we head downtown, continue conversations over some beer and food and stuff like that.
Nice.
I'm really proud because we've connected people, we've gotten people jobs, we've gotten people. We've said, hey, have you looked at this? And it's really fun kind of seeing people grow.
You said when you were speaking earlier, everybody's going to meet up at Lucy's after this event, perhaps. I feel like, so I went to University of Florida. I feel like that was around when I was around. Has it been around a long time?
Yeah, it was called Market Street Pub back then, if you remember that.
Okay. Yeah. Is it downtown?
Yep, it's right downtown.
That was downtown was not a thing when I was at University of Florida. You stayed more towards the campus.
Yeah. In Midtown.
It's cool. It's really gotten cool down here.
Downtown's blown up, and it's a lot of work putting on by just people organizing stuff and building community and stuff.
Okay.
I just came from a session where they're talking about the How Bazaar, and they have the a la carte where they put a big festival on, every couple months, right out in front of there. And
Nice.
they have street vendors. They have, I don't know, like one time they had a skate competition. They had music and stuff like that. And you go down there and you just get like this feeling that Gainesville is a really cool place. It's a good place with good people, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Now, did you go to school here, or
No.
are you from here?
I moved here. I grew up I moved all around, So when I grew up, I actually grew up on a pig farm in like rural Pennsylvania for a little while.
I'm from Pennsylvania as
Yeah,
well. Not the rural part.
I was up a little north of Scranton.
Okay.
And
the office.
yeah, right. That's what. Whenever I go through there, they have like all the stuff at the airport, including like hoodies and stuff like that.
They put Scranton on the map for sure.
They totally did. When I was in middle school, I moved down to South Florida. I've been in Gainesville since 2000 and kind of built a life here. I came up here with an associate's degree with the intention of going to UF.
Okay.
But I kind of never really went there. Like I just ended up with an associate's degree, kind of bounced around at a couple jobs, ended up getting jobs, getting better jobs, getting married, getting divorced, getting a kid, keeping the kid, getting new jobs,
Life happens.
Yeah, having life and building this huge network of amazing people and friends that I'm really thankful for. And I can't really imagine being anywhere else.
So are you, do you consider yourself a coder? Like, how do you frame yourself and what you do in your work?
Yeah, I'm a coder. So I've been doing website development since the early 2000s. For a while, I had my own business that was spectacularly unsuccessful on the business side, but the websites we made were great. Since 2014, I've had a job doing front-end development, and front-end development is where you take a design like that someone puts together in Photoshop or Illustrator, and you make the website look like that, and so it's a little bit trickier than that too. You have to make it look good on all devices from a phone to a widescreen. It needs to work with assistive technology. So if you're a blind person using a screen reader, you need to be able to use the website. And a lot of that takes a lot of technical skill, which is a lot of fun. And I really enjoy it. But I've worked on a lot of really big websites. I've worked on, like, the first website I ever worked with for this one company was the Sci-Fi Network. I built this like really cool, like scrolling interaction. Cool. I've worked on websites like SpaceX's website, IBM.com right now. I'm working on the Federal Small Business Administration website.
Okay.
So we're in the process of rebuilding that. And if you check in on that, in probably about 2 months, you're going to see the new website on that. And
are you giving us a talk today?
Yeah, they kind of talked me into one. I was hoping not to.
Okay.
But I'm going to give a talk around, I think, like 11:30, 11:45, whatever that slot is. I'm just auditing your website, and I have nothing prepared. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up some websites, and I'm going to say, like, let's audit your website for performance to make it fast, because I like fast websites and I hate slow websites because I'm very impatient. And also it needs to be accessible, which means, like, if you're someone who either can't see or you're not able to use a mouse properly, or you have like the buttons that go around. Some people even like use like the little puffers. Yep. Your website needs to work with that, and you cannot exclude those people. So we talk about that and about how that works and how to audit it.
So that'll be that's interesting. Are you going to do it live audits?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think I have nothing prepared. Okay. So that's the only thing I can really do.
That's awesome. So when you were talking, you talked a couple of times about accessibility for blind people.
Yeah.
This is a very random thing, but OpenAI is working with a company to get visual information for GPT-4. And they're doing it through this organization that they have volunteers. I don't know if you've heard about this app or not.
No.
But okay, so I joined it. So they're going to have all my information. But basically, they have volunteers on ready. They have millions of volunteers on standby for a blind person to say, I need some help. Can you tell me, is this a black shirt or a red shirt? I want to wear a black shirt. And the person will have a conversation with them and say, it's the one on the right side.
I have heard of that app. It's like a little phone app or something,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so I just joined it, and I've gotten 2 calls so far. I haven't had a chance to answer it. Somebody else got it before I did, but I just thought that was fascinating. And when you were talking about that was interesting.
There's so many opportunities, and I think like artificial intelligence is going to revolutionize so many things that we're doing, including like you know, like alternative text for images. You know, a lot of it, like part of making your website accessible is like when you put an image on your website, you have to have like some hidden text that screen readers can read that says this is a picture of a green field with a cow in it, and the cow's looking up at a sun.
Yeah.
And it gives these people context that sighted people like you and I can see. You know,
Okay.
it kind of levels that playing field a little bit more.
Yeah. Have you dabbled with the AI at all?
Oh
Machine
yeah.
learning, or?
So I wrote I had it write the best poem. You know, because
Okay.
ChatGPT, if you don't know, writes very good poems.
Yeah.
So just the other night, I ended up going down to the Gainesville Planning Board because our neighborhood was trying to build a driveway so we get less traffic, yada yada. But other people were opposed to it. So I was trying to get people to go with me so we could speak. So I wrote that I gave ChatGPT a great prompt that says, in a patriotic tone, write a poem about our neighborhood, which is called Libby Heights. Trying to build a driveway for a club called the 300 Club, you know, so-and-so. And it wrote this beautiful, beautiful poem in about like 20 seconds. And so like, of course, I took that and posted it to the Facebook group and
That's
like
awesome.
texted around and stuff like that. And of course, it was pretty hilarious.
That's funny. So many different uses.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to talk about today? I'm interested to see. I don't think I'm going to be able to sit in on your session, but it would be interesting to see the live piece of that and how that goes. So keep me informed.
It's going to be fun. We'll see how it goes. You know, I'll probably have to like maybe do like a little preparation beforehand to have a website or two ready to go, and then hopefully people will raise their hand and we'll critique their own websites.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down chatting today, and we'll
thank you so much.
Yeah, we're going to be back I think around 11:30 Eastern time, so about a half an hour. We'll be coming back with Layla, and I think Layla was maybe the person that you were
for How Bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know her last name because I forget it, but
I can't pronounce it, so I'm gonna have to ask her when she comes.
I just walked out of her session to do this, and she's very impressive. It's gonna be a good interview.
Awesome. Thank you
so much.
Okay, we'll be back.